Hi, Gavin. I just want to introduce everybody to Gavin Anand, who is an expert in tantric massage and other sexual therapies. So I'll let you talk and explain, introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm Gavin Anand, and so I've been doing this work since my I would say my late teens. So I was initially introduced to conscious sexuality through reading the Mantak Chia books, actually. And this is a time when I was doing a lot of martial arts training and sort of fit in very well with the training in martial arts. Because obviously you're working with energy on a conscious level. And a lot of the exercises Mantak Chia teaches are also involved in martial arts training. As I say, conscious sort of qigong work, working with the energy, the universal energy. Next, my next major influence was with the Osho community, where I started teaching them actually martial arts. They bought the center I was teaching at in London, and so I was introduced to their methods and the energy that was around them. Obviously very, very open, people working on a lot of, with a lot of Osho meditations, which were designed really for the Westerner. So it's all about shaking the person up, and then just being privy to this incredible energy that was coming out of these people. They were so open, and I found it very fascinating. At the same time, I was also introduced to other spiritual teachers, such as a man called Darfree John, who came from America, but had again combined Eastern influences, Eastern spirituality with Western pragmatism, the psychology of the West. Very, again, quite similar to Osho, and also people like Barry Long came into my consciousness. So with various partners, I started practicing these techniques, these various techniques, and then in my early 20s, my early 30s, so I was 29, 30, I met a community that heralded from Polynesia. And this was the work that I really embraced, I feel, because I had experiences with them that went beyond anything that I'd known previously. And through the work that I did with them, I experienced not only full body orgasm, but myself, actually, because we were working with techniques to clear the being, or clear yourself, of identification with others. And this is a process that I work with all the time, because to really experience these altered states, these orgasmic states, you need to be in your core being, and otherwise the identifications we hold block us from our true self, basically, and receiving and being able to receive and give energy and to go into bliss states. So I lived and worked with them for a decade, and during this time I went through a lot of changes, releases. I had to work on these certain identifications that I was holding. And at a certain point, because we practiced sex on a regular basis, conscious sex, so there were elders within the community that would coach you with a lover, with the energy work, and then what was happening, how to release the blockages, and then at a certain point, when you become a clear vessel, you can really experience full body orgasm. This is, in a way, I'm loath to use the word Tantra, because this was coming from the Polynesian people. Although the work they do and the tantrics are quite similar in some ways, because it's all about working with energy on a conscious level. And of course, to reach bliss states. But the way in which you get there is different. And I feel for this age that we live in, that the combination of the release processes and the Polynesian approach to sexuality is far more potent and helps you reach those bliss states. And it's about letting go. So again, it's everything is taking you to this point, or has taken me to this point. You know, so initially I started with the Taoist practices of Mantak Chia, then tantric practices through the Osho community and other teachers that I've met along the way. Oh yes, prior to all of this, I was trained as a body worker as well. So my journey has been initially through the martial arts, then through body work. So I was trained in first Swedish massage, a lot of shiatsu, Korean massage, because I was teaching and training in Korean martial arts. And so this gave me a great understanding of energy from the Eastern point of view, how it works, how yin and yang energy works, how to work with the body, of course, and understanding both from the Western and the Eastern point of view, how the body works. Also, I trained in dance, and first of all, contemporary dance, jazz ballet, so quite structured dance. I was also trained in Afro-Brazilian, Afro dance. So again, this is a very important part of the work I do, because to understand how the body moves, how even culturally different we can be, and certain cultures, how they move is very much connected to their sexuality. For instance, in African Polynesian dance, there's a lot of focus on the hips, the genitals.
But that's where all the energy is, so.
Sorry?
That's where all the energy is.
Yes, exactly. So, and this coincides with these cultures' attitudes towards sex. So, for me, living with and studying with the Polynesians, it was slightly mind-blowing, because their experiences are completely opposite to Westerners, in the sense that instead of building up a contraction around sexuality, building up guilt, shame, etc., no particular education around sexuality, the Polynesians would celebrate it from a very young age, actually. And then they would teach it as an art from, again, quite a pretty young age. And so growing up in that society, by the time they were 15, 16, they would know everything, experience everything, and understand the art of lovemaking.
And then minus the pain that you have to go through trauma, and then untraumatize yourself to learn the art. That's really terrible.
Yeah.
What happens in the West.
Well, I feel that this is the part for the Westerners, for us as Westerners, that the trauma that we experience around our sexuality is, we can either cover it and ignore it, or in many of our cases, we come from that energy. So it's about transforming the pain that we suffer into pleasure, working with that consciously. And actually, through that, you can find the greatest creativity.
So tell me now, two questions I have. One is, if we can talk, before we go in, about change, what happens, especially for women. I'm interested in what happens after this work. But can you, before we go there, talk what is tantric massage and what is conscious sex? Because sometimes people don't understand, because you mentioned quite a bit conscious sex. So what is conscious sex, and what is this type of work that you're talking, the tantric massage, etc.?
Okay, so, well, there's different forms of tantric massage, of course, kind of depending on which tradition you come from. But again, I want to come away from the use of the word tantra and talk about being able to work with so it's transformational and transcendent, and of course we're working around the sexuality, because this is the biggest area that this is the area we need to work. But of course, the whole body is a sexual. I mean, ask people, where does your sex start and where does it end? Is it just buried in your underpants or your knickers? The whole body is a sexual organ, actually, and which is also connected to the universe. So really, this is what we're doing. We're opening up this channel.
It's trying to open up the antenna.
That's one way to put it, of course. Yeah. And of course, once that's open, then you go into the bliss states, and you are connected to the whole universe, basically.
And so, I know, as Lithuanian, with you is we tend to be taught as women to go in life through pain and suffer and struggle and difficulty, and then usually it means the energy is also blocked and sitting and getting stale and getting depressive and all of that, right? And when you lift that energy, like the work that I did with you, the lighter thoughts come, antenna lightens up, therefore you create a lighter life, lighter experience. You look for pleasure in life. That's why I say, if you do one thing, this is how you do everything. It becomes your life a little bit more lighter. And if you continue this work, you find the lightness of being, of living.
Thank you. Yes, of course. Yes. we both know the effects of bliss, of orgasm. So
it's not
Yeah.
just in the bedroom. It doesn't end in the bedroom. It's about the life. And that's where I want to lead you into what happened. Tell me to some examples like women that worked with you that came in traumatized and how that transformed for them in their life or pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, they've become completely transformed. So the main thing I can say is that, well, one thing that springs to mind straight away is so many of the women that I've worked with over the last, say, 5-6 years had babies. A whole slew of you, including you, Sidra, gave birth. Okay. So this comes about, I feel, with the orgasm. Orgasm is so connected to this. And coming into your femininity. So what I've seen mostly is how women have transformed and become themselves, become the female that they are. So what I have to say is that, of course, in the world at the moment, women have taken on, consciously or unconsciously, the masculine. To survive in this world today, women, and not just today, it's a historical thing, because men have been perceived as the controllers, the dominant in society, most societies. So there's, with the identification process, and it's a subconscious thing, women have identified strongly with strong male figures in their environment, possibly their fathers, possibly leaders. We always identify under stress or trauma with somebody who we perceive as being stronger than ourselves. Now, it's not done on a conscious level, it's done on a subconscious level. So we're not consciously aware that we've done it sometimes. But when we do it, we take on that person's physiology and psychology. So with this work I do, it's about unlocking that. Sometimes you can release that in the moment. You can release the identification in the moment. Sometimes it requires work. You know, it's especially if it's survival. If we're surviving in these identifications, then it's more difficult. You have to work at it. You have to do the opposite of what that identification would do. If that's in your everybody, and environment is so important. You know, Jidra, when we were in Thailand, the environment is so supportive. You know, you're surrounded by warm environment, supportive community, and it allows you to be more yourself, be free.
That's the plan for me in Lithuania.
You can let go of the aggressive.
Yeah, it's the plan to create.
Come again?
That's the plan for me and Žydrūnas, to create this community in Lithuania that is safer and is more supportive, so you can transform easily. Because if you're on your own with your old environment, this all looks like a bit crazy, right? So it's to have enough safe, positive community and to bring you here. This is actually the purpose of this interview, to give people an idea of this work, a glimpse of it, so we can bring this winter Gavin to Lithuania to give us that knowledge and that expertise of many, many years. And I know it works. I've seen on other women, and I keep in touch with some of the women of how their lives transformed because of work with Gavin. So that's the plan, to bring you here and spread the word, build community at a more conservative, in a more conservative country. So anyway, if I missed something, if you want to add more about the work.
Well, no, I just feel I want to talk a little bit about one particular woman that I worked with extensively who really transformed. So this is a Russian woman that I spent maybe 2-3 years working with. Well, no, not so long, 2 years perhaps. And initially she came to me because she had fear of water. So one of the things I do is aqua magic, which is a form of body work that you do in the water. And it's a combination of shiatsu, massage, yoga, so what happens in the water is most people have a rebirthing experience. And for me, I find this is a wonderful environment for people to transform. Really a very quick transformation. So anyway, after a while, she let go of the fear of the water, and in a short time, she loved it. So from having a tremendous fear of the water, she began to love it, and was going into bliss states during these sessions. She then talked to me about doing the sexual work. She said, I'm non-orgasmic. So we started the sexual work. And okay, so she was 32 at the time. She'd been on hormone treatment for 8 years of her life. Within 3 months, she needed no more hormone treatment and started to become very orgasmic. I was using the trumpet a lot with her, which is a vibrational technique which with human energy fills up the person with energy, and they can't hold on to their stuff with this technique. So at some point they will be, it's like little bridges being crossed or dams being burst within in the being, and at a certain point you cannot not be fully orgasmic with this technique. So anyway, so after 3 months or so of doing this intense sexual work with her, she had no more need for hormone treatment. So letting go of identifications with men or other females who had identified strongly with males themselves. So she had to break or to let go of all of these identifications, come into her own core being, her own bliss, and feel comfortable being herself and being a woman. She just completely transformed. Yeah. So I just wanted to give that one example. There, I've worked with many women. As I say, so many of the women I've worked with. And so this is something that you have to take into account, you know. Do you want to have a child in the world? Because obviously as you come more into your core, into your femininity, you become very fertile, and the desire to have children, even if you know, you've gone through life, you haven't necessarily wanted a child or been able to have a child, this will bring you into a state of, you know, incredible creativeness, and which is connected so much with the orgasm and fertility. So the desire to bring life into the world is there as well.
As well as projects, as women say, baby is my, you know, project or a little business that they're doing. It's also the energy, creative energy to do those, or being a singer, being an artist in life.
Oh yeah, and this too, I've seen people become incredible artists as well. You know, as Yeah, singing is again it comes because what you're also doing is creating the connection between the sex and the throat, especially. So much is stored here, especially for women. Why in the world do women have especially so many problems with their throat?
Yeah.
Or throat chakra, the Shuddha, yeah? So don't forget, we're coming from millennia of suppression of the female expression. So
Thyroid.
all the suppression is here. So when that's released, boom, you know, whatever's been held down, it's like a pressure cooker. Whatever's been held down has suddenly been liberated. And oh boy, you know,
You found
whatever
a
wants to come
word,
through.
to be a singer, to be a screamer, you know, like I find sometimes I am like, oh my God, I'm like Italian screaming, you know, on my kid and my dog. And I'm like, I didn't have that voice before. I remember I was talking low, you know, and now it's like, okay, so that's the intro of Gavin. If you would like to know more, you can always ask questions of me, because I know Gavin for many years. I've done the practices, so I can answer a lot of questions for you, because that's something upcoming near you. So don't miss it. And looking forward to see more transformations and help you. And, you know, thank you, Gavin, for willing to come here. A lot of work here.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jitra. Yeah. So what do you think?